Welcome to the Town of the Rain of the Heavens ninth broadcast, I believe. And we do have to give notice that the program name is going to be changed to the T-ROH Show. So it's the T-ROH, T-ROH show. So welcome to the T-ROH Show. That's the first broadcast of the T-ROH Show. This is your host, Keith, and we have Stu and Tony on. Say hello, fellers.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Okay, we have quite a bit to follow to cover tonight, so we'll go ahead and get moving. And I think pretty soon we're going to have a jingle. We'll have to create a jingle here pretty soon for the T-ROH Show. But it's been quite eventful, I think, the last couple of weeks as far as when the legal tender Continental Dollar came out. I think we might as, I wouldn't be surprised if we were in the National Enquirer tabloids of having alien babies.
I was in a supermarket. I didn't see us yet, but
yeah.
Who knows about next week.
I guess the Continental Dollar legal tender would be Martian, money, that the Martians are coming in to invade and all that. I think we read in one place where it said that this government was run out of Costa Rica, out of a P.O. box or something?
Correct.
And that we were involved in some kind of drug cartels?
Yeah, operations funded by the drug cartels.
Trying to take the people's sovereignty.
Operation Sovereignty.
Yeah. So... It's been quite eventful, and man, everybody has made up some stuff that's unbelievable, and they have very wild imaginations. And what they didn't realize is that all this has been going on when everybody else has been trying to get the republic back that was never really theirs. And that's the saddest part, but all this was going on, we had your back. In other words, we're basically the only ones keeping the country independent.
Yeah, and isn't that the ultimate scam? You get somebody chasing something that never really existed, so they're defending, what you've got in place without them even knowing it. It's quite elaborate.
Exactly, and it's whoever thought this up as far as the amount of deception is concerned is absolutely amazing. I mean, you have to give it to them because they have really messed with people's minds.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. And we'll tell you a little bit about who's behind all this and who started it and what's going on. A lot of it's starting to come out now, more and more in the mainstream than it was before, through the Kanye West story and all that. We'll give you a little warning about the Kanye West going to see Trump. I would really watch that situation fairly closely because what a lot of people don't understand is Disney produces weapons. They don't produce fun and games. The fun and games is the cover, but they produce MK Ultra, folks, and it's a real problem with them. In other words, one word could kick those people off into some kind of violence. It's amazing to watch. So if you ever see somebody that just went off hog wild crazy and then comes back and says, I don't remember it, that tells you something. There's something behind that.
Yeah, and we can recommend to the listeners that if you're unfamiliar with Disney and some of the techniques that they use, there's quite a bit of info.
Might want to get a little closer to your mic there, Stan.
I said that we can advise some of the listeners that if they're unfamiliar with Disney and some of the techniques that they use within their animations, there's some good analysis. Some folks have some people have gone to work on YouTube.
Yeah. A lot of good work has been done on YouTube as far as dealing with the MK Ultra stuff, and people, chalk it off as conspiracy. But we've we witnessed this. So it's not a conspiracy. It's true. And when these people are coming out and saying it, like movie stars and things like that, people like that, they're not lying. They're not lying about it. They're putting their lives on the line. John Quaid was the one I was very concerned about. They were getting ready to off him. And he fought it, and he won. They got too big and too busy. So at any rate, we'll get into that here in just a little while. Let's talk about your sovereignty and how your sovereignty is thought of by people in the international realm. Let's go to who owns private prison stock. Everybody knows that you've got all these places around here called detention centers. And these detention centers are privately owned. They are not state prisons. Now, this is going to get a little bit deep, so just, take some something to keep you awake, and we'll get through it.
Right. And
I was going to say, fasten your seatbelt.
Yeah. And let's open with a little clarification. Just because something has a state name or a local city name in it, it doesn't mean that it's part of a governmental apparatus. I'm in a particular state. If you've got Idaho detention center, it doesn't mean that it's a governmental detention center. It's just been named Idaho Detention Center,
Right, or the county detention center and all that. It doesn't mean it has anything to do with the county.
Right.
Same
thing with ambulances. You see that a lot with ambulances. Blank City Ambulance Service. I just wanted to throw that out there so that folks understood, a little bit about what we're about to enter into.
Right. Okay. Now, if people go over to Prison Legal News, I like those guys. They do really good work. It's prisonlegalnews.org. They have quite a few enlightening articles there, and they do some really good research. And the reason why I like them a lot is because Prison Legal News is dedicated to protecting human rights. So we're right on the same page. Now, the nation's two largest for-profit prison companies is Tennessee-based Corrections Corporations of America, CCA, and Florida-based GEO Group. Pay attention to the GEO Group, because I'm going to read another part of this, and it's going to all start connecting. Are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Other private prison firms, including Management and Training Corporation, Community Education Centers, LaSalle Southwest Corrections, and Emerald Correctional Management, are privately held and thus do not have public stock. So there's a lot of these companies that are privately held that aren't accountable. That's the problem. Anything can happen in there. They're not really accountable. The reason is because most of the judges, if not all of them, have a share in those private, when those companies are privately held. And they can hide that fact through, what is that called? It's not a sponsor. It'll come to me in a few minutes. But at any rate, it says as of July 2015, CCA has issued approximately 117 million shares of stock with a market cap of 4.05 billion, while GEO has issued around 75 million shares with a market cap of 2.76 billion. So who owns the vast majority of the stock in these two companies? The answer is not everyday people or individual investors, but rather other corporations, banks, mutual fund management companies, and private equity firms, as well as public employee retirement systems. In fact, around 92.4% of CCA stock was owned by 300 institutional investors, while 91.1% of the GEO Group stock was owned by 272 institutional investors at the end of July 2015. In some cases, the same institutional investors held stock in both companies. This is huge. Now, listen to this carefully. The largest owner of the CCA stock was Vanguard Group Incorporated, with 16.79 million shares valued at $578.9 million, followed by Vanguard Specialized REIT Index Fund, a mutual fund, and 8.8 million shares. Other top institutional investors included Managed Account Advisors with 6.4 million shares. Listen to this name, London Company of Virginia, with 6.13 million shares, and Epic Investment Partners Incorporated, with just over 6 million shares. The London Company of Virginia is the same company that George Washington worked for as a deputy. It started the Constitution of the United States. It signed it as its president. So CCA's 10th largest
small world.
It's a very small world. Now, if you don't think that London and Manhattan Island work together, CCA's 10 largest institutional investors own approximately 67 million shares in the company, or almost 58% of the company's total issued stock. Banks are heavily invested in CCA, include the, guess who, the Bank of New York Mellon Corporation, with 2.46
ding, 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 ding.
In Wells Fargo and Company with 1.24 million shares. So you have the Bank of New York Mellon that's owned by the King of the Netherlands, which is part of the Bilderberg Group, and there you have your private prison system within the whole country. That's what they think of your sovereignty. Okay, now, check this out. This is actually connected to what's going on with, Syria, and why all of these people coming in to from Syria and other countries, why a bunch of Muslims are coming into the European and West. See, a lot of people don't really get that. This has never really come out, and we're about to show you why that is. And it's sick. It's a really sick plan. These private prisons, okay, and these companies also reach into Europe. Now, 2 weeks ago, the Private Prison Corporation, and this is on another website, it's called Darwin Bond Graham. It's on a WordPress site. It says 2 weeks ago, the Private Prison Corporation, GEO Group, added yet another former government official to its inner circle. On July 2nd, GEO Group's management voted unanimously to expand their board of directors to 7 seats, adding Julie Myers Wood. From 2006 to 2008, Wood was the Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary in charge of, guess what? Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Okay, so Wood is now the second member of GEO Group's inner circle to have been employed by ICE. GEO Group's Executive Vice President for Corporate Development, David Venturella, was an executive within ICE for 22 years before joining GEO Group in 2012. Of course, ICE is a major customer of GEO Group. That's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement from the Department of Homeland Security. GEO Group's federal prison contracting began in 1987. That's when they started privatizing under, it was under Reagan and then went over to Bush, okay, Bush Sr., when ICE signed a deal with the company to build and operate the immigrant prison in Colorado called the Aurora ICE Processing Center. Later this year, GEO Group will open a new 400-bed immigrant transfer center in Louisiana. ICE will pay GEO Group $8.5 million a year to hold detainees in this prison. While these people are coming into the country, they're being vetted. During that process, ICE and the GEO Group, ICE is paying, Department of Homeland Security is paying the GEO Group $8.5 million a year to hold the detainees while they're there. Some might remember Julie Myers Wood for presiding over an infamous Halloween costume party at ICE's Washington, D.C. headquarters in 2007. Now think of this, folks. This is what they think of you. Some ICE employees dressed up as immigrant fugitives. Wood awarded the best costume prize to an ICE employee who donned a dreadlock wig and a blackface paint, explaining to amused colleagues that he was a Jamaican detainee who had escaped from ICE's Chrome prison near Miami. Wood was accused by the House Committee on Homeland Security of exercising poor judgment when she rewarded the employee for the costume, and also covering up the incident afterward when she ordered the deletion of pictures. The pictures include a photo of her smiling next to a make-believe Jamaican immigrant prisoner. Other top GEO managers provided natural links to the other federal branch of government that contracts out prison facility, construction, and operations work, the Justice Department's Federal Bureau of Prisons. GEO Group Director Norman Carlson was the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 17 years before retiring in 1987. John Hurley, GEO Group's Senior Vice President for Corrections and Detention, was a warden in the Federal Bureau of Prisons for 26 years. Today, GEO Group operates multiple Department of Justice prisons housing federal inmates. So, if you have all
I'm stunned.
If you have all the judges involved, if you have all of the federal employees involved in this that deal in this area. The U.S. Supreme Court, I believe, said that they wouldn't stop the private prison system, even though they were asked to, because it would hurt the economy. So who does this lead back to? Bank of New York Mellon, the Dutch, who were very instrumental in the Civil War of this country and stealing a lot of property to make themselves or to pad their pockets, which has been proven. That's been verified all over by a particular individual. I won't name names at the moment. So, Julie Myers' recent appointment to the GEO Group's board of directors also connects GEO Group to the new corners of the private security industry. After her brief and controversial term running ICE, Wood is now the custom among top federal officials. Set up her own consulting firm in 2012, ICE LLC. ICS stands for Immigration and Customs Solutions. Wood's consulting shop was then bought by Guidepost Solutions, a large private security consulting firm that was already doing business with the GEO Group through a consulting agreement with BI Incorporated, a GEO Group subsidiary that specializes in providing electronic ankle bracelet monitors and other surveillance equipment to track prisoners and parolees. Which, by the way, if you go and do some research on people who were put in probation, probation was passed without Congress in session, without the U.S. Congress in session. The president at the time, go do your research, the president just signed it into law without Congress even voting on it. I've got that research somewhere, I just can't remember what it was. Oh, and here we go. I didn't really even know that a private membership association can have this or do this. Wood is also a member of the American Bar Association's Commission on Immigration and the Executive Committee Chair for the Border Security Technology Consortium. So you want these folks in charge of your border security that make money to bring immigrants in. Kind of brings out why Clinton was saying we need to open all these borders up. We need to just let these people in because it pads their pockets, guy. The latter is the industry lobbying group comprised of companies that sell in surveillance equipment and weapons to the Department of Homeland Security. Now think of it this way. You bring people in, okay? They're obviously going to be at odds with others because of their Muslim religion and Christians, and they just clash, right? Well, that causes crime. When that causes crime, you fill more beds. So you're bringing them in as immigration or immigrants. You're making money there. Then when they're entered into society and they go all haywire because they're not used to it, and they start doing their thing, the violence begins. Now you can fill more beds. So it works both ways. This is all about filling beds in prisons that everybody's invested in.
That's their business.
Yeah, to do with the Muslims.
Right, and you've got a very attractive service to attract all these immigrants with, allowing them to collect benefits, vote when they're, not really true U.S. citizens and things like that. So you see how it begins to bring together a lot of additional pieces of the puzzle.
Right. And it says here, the world of private, for-profit prisons, border security contracting, and surveillance technology is quite small, really. If you follow an individual's professional network out of a few degrees, it is likely that your search will boomerang back around to where you started. It's personal relationships forged on corporate boards as government officials that connect in growing private prison and surveillance industry to the current government officials and lawmakers who are in a position to award contracts. Everybody's scratching each other's back, the whole deal. For Wood, her new spot in Geo Group's board will provide pay and stock awards valued at about $250,000 a year. I doubt that that's that low, by the way. Her connections in other private prison and surveillance companies and trade associations will strengthen Geo Group's already formidable lobbying prowess and help the company to secure a bigger slice of the growing market for privatized prisons. So, what you're dealing with, folks, is why is that a problem? Where's the danger in this? Well, we need to put criminals in prison, which we agree. We do agree with that, putting criminals in prison. The problem is due process. How are they being put in prison? How many innocent people are being put in prison without any form of what we call due process at all?
Due process, yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got people sitting in prison under the Patriot Act, which now you might understand why the Patriot Act was kind of rushed in, because everybody had their money in on these private prisons, including, by the way, Bob Barker, and a lot of the stars were doing it and are doing it today. You have these. Lost my train of thought, guys. Help me out.
You were discussing Bob Barker and.
I know everybody heard just Bob Barker.
No, scratching each other's back.
Yeah, okay. Growing market, secure
yeah.
big slice of the growing market, privatized prisons. Then you have the police that are doing it under private contracts. So now you have
right. So you've got the whole thing. You've got the tracking people. You've got the bounty hunters. You've got the bed and breakfast, and then
right.
you've got the corporate guys making all the big money and bringing them in, turning them stateless, so they can have at them.
Right, because this is international.
Mm-hmm.
This goes over boundary lines. This is all in Europe, and it's also in Australia. So right away, you have the Patriot Act come in. They can hold you indefinitely. So they bring that up for your safety. And then they, now all of a sudden, everybody goes to jail for everything. No matter what. If you try to defend yourself, you're punished for it. They'll keep you in there longer. And it only works for them. That's how they make their money. They sell a lot of products. They even, I think it's like $1.50, $2, sometimes $3 a minute for phone calls. It's unbelievable. It's virtually unregulated.
Yeah.
It's an unregulated industry at this moment.
That's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad and extremely scary. because you could be, sitting there. I mean, we've had reports in our Human Rights Tribunal that are unbelievable. Some of the things that happened. We had one lady. She was distraught. I don't want to name any names here, but I'll just tell you the story. She was distraught, and she was distraught over her husband and her ex-husband, and her father dying, I think, within a month apart. So she called for a little help. She was having a little trouble. You know what I mean? And needed some guidance and counseling and all that kind of stuff. From that point forward, she was stuck in a old folks' home. They rendered her incompetent, gave another woman power of attorney for her, sold all her belongings and her home, and she's been there ever since. Won't let her see any family or anything. That's one of over 250 people, and it's in the state of Oregon right now. That happened. We have the affidavits and absolute fact. We even made the phone calls and verified it. There's one particular judge involved in it, and there's one particular...
Yeah, and that's a relatively gentle example of what you're really talking about, which is, a police state. Mm-hmm. You've got a police state here. We've got public executions occurring, and we've got estates being snatched out from under people every single day.
Yeah, and we also have police being shot in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Being, they're the cannon fodder.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they're the fodder. Yeah. Exactly.
I sat there and told them since 1995 that you guys are going to be cannon fodder. We were trying to help you out. You guys are going to be cannon fodder. You're going to be in the middle of it. They didn't believe us. They didn't believe me. I was some nut whack job. And guess what happened? Now they're cannon fodder. Tried to tell them what was coming. And they didn't believe me. So, at any rate, I think we had some other ones. I think it was in our what do you call it? The tabloids. We had another one. I think that the Reign of the Heavens made a contract with the devil. That's right, to make peace. A peace contract with the devil, I think. That was funny, by the way. That was crazy. We had some other ones too. There were some other ones that were in there. It was just unbelievable. Some of the things that people had said about the Reign of the Heavens. Reign of the Heavens is a country, guys. It always has been. We can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. The claim to the country and to bring it back was sent over to the Bureau on Private International Law at The Hague. We waited 6 months or so to find out if anybody else had a claim to it. Nobody did. The reason why the Reign of the Heavens is so, dangerous to the society today is because its very existence reveals a very large lie.
Thousands of years old.
Yes, there's a very, very large lie. That if people were to hear what that lie was, they would probably faint. In other words, if I were to have a seminar or even a show, a program, and showed what the Reign of the Heavens was, I would have an ambulance standing by. And I'm not kidding. It would absolutely blow their minds. Total shock. So, the Reign of the Heavens is here. It is a proven country. Netanyahu knows about it, by the way. He knows that it's there. What a lot of people don't understand is, I don't want to get into that. It's talking about how Israel's set up, and I don't want to get into all that mess. But at any rate,
You know, Keith, I did want to remind people, especially those who have been listening to the radio broadcast since the first episode. In the first episode, we discussed entity names and correct style, and, you know, so everybody, the correct name is Reign of the Heavens, not Reign of Heaven or anything other than Reign of the Heavens.
Yeah, all lowercase letters.
That's right.
Although it's called Reign of the Heavens, and that is a literal country. That is, you can put the sand in your hand, and you can grab onto it. It's real. It's there. Okay, so let's move on to who's behind the Geo Group and all this other stuff. Everybody's heard of the Illuminati. Now, the funny thing about this is, and we're going to show you and actually shock you with some things about yourself that you may or may not realize. Someone comes to you, a government comes to you and says, hey, we're all for the States of the Union. This government originally had power of attorney for the States of the Union and still does. The entity itself, the United States of America, upper lowercase t, upper lowercase the, of the 1781 Confederacy still has power of attorney for those original states. And the original states, if you go back into their constitutions, go take a look at their name. It's state up. State of Georgia, state of Tennessee, state of this, state of that. Some of them are commonwealths. But keep in mind, don't change those names. You can't change the name of the state. You can't call them Tennessee State. It doesn't work that way. There's no such thing. That's a state within a state. So stop changing the names. Stop calling them republics. The state of Florida is a republic, but you can't say the state of Florida republic. It doesn't work that way. That's a brand new state. It has no standing in international law or the law of nations.
Stop abbreviating it also.
Right. The state of Florida can have many different types of government. It doesn't have to have a republic. It can have a communist government. It can have a socialist. It can have a monarchy. It can have many different types of governments.
Yeah, we should drive that point home. You can have in any landmass, you can have multiple governments operating. I mean, that's what United States is. It's multiple governments. They define them as state of Idaho, state of Minnesota. These are all different governments. They have similar policies by design, but you can have multiple governments on a landmass.
Right. You just can't change the name of the state. That's the problem that people are having. We get all kinds of stuff. I think there was Massachusetts State Republic. No such thing, guys. It's a state of or Commonwealth of Massachusetts. You can have a different government. You can start a government under the same name. You just can't change the name of the state. The only way the government is valid is if it is subject to the law of nations. Because, believe it or not, every one of the states are subject to the law of nations. They always have been. If the government is subject to the law of nations, it is in harmony with its country. Many have said we need to start out county by county, bottom-up government, the whole thing. True, yeah, we tried that for 10 years. Nobody would assemble. They probably thought they would get in trouble. Remember, you're dealing with millennials here. You're dealing with people that are in electronic age. They have no idea who Lincoln was. They have no idea what a republic is. They think the Civil War was a Revolutionary War, and the Revolutionary War was a Civil War. They don't know the difference. I'm not saying that they're dumb and couldn't know, because a lot of them have woken up. What I'm saying is there's a lot of re-education that needs to be done to show them exactly what happened way back when.
Which is part of what this show's about.
Yes, or what the T-ROH Show is about. Start teaching people. about what's real history and what isn't. Anything that happened in the Civil War has no standing whatsoever. It was a civil war. Any new state created under the Reconstruction Act had nothing to do with anything. They didn't need to reconstruct. They needed to go back to their original states. That they didn't do, so that left them open for claim. And that's why this government did that, to preserve them. Preserve the original Union. Now, the interesting part is that we brought out the Continental Dollar, we put legal tender on there, and it freaked everybody out. Surprised us, because we've been using it for quite a while. But they all freaked out. Apparently somebody started saying that it was rainbow currency or something. I don't even know what the hell rainbow currency is, by the way. Never even heard of it. What you're having an issue with is this, and what I'm having quite a little bit of an issue with is this. You have a country full of Christians, okay? Whether anybody knows it or not, Illuminati is a religion, and they are devil worshippers. Have been verified beyond a shadow of a doubt. They do worship the devil. They worship spirits. They worship the Eye of Horus. They get into all kinds of Baphomet stuff. They get into the Bull, which is the Tarsus Club. They get into all this kind of stuff, okay? And everything about them is devil worship. Evil to the core, by the way. They do a lot of bloodlettings. They do a lot of sacrifices. A lot of movie stars are sacrificed because of it. Robin Williams was killed because of it. Michael Jackson was killed. Anybody that brings this out and brings out the devil worship of the Illuminati ends up dead. They make more money when they die. So that their symbol is in or on the $1 bill. Turn it over, you'll see it. It's the Illuminati symbol. It has the all-seeing eye, which is the Horus, the god of Horus. Now, think about it this way. You declare yourself a Christian. You go over to another country, and you hand them a $1 bill. And the guy turns it over and says, this is not a Christian $1 bill. This is an Illuminati $1 bill. So what you just told them was that you said you were a Christian, but you said also that you were a devil worshiper. And you wonder why the country is called the Great Satan.
Right. By virtue of the money that you're using.
Exactly. That is what you're using. You're using Illuminati money.
And just because it says, in God we trust on that, the money doesn't mean that they are necessarily talking about the same God that the Christians might be talking about.
And they're very good at that. They're very good at that deception. If you do a little research on the Illuminati, you can start looking at their symbols and everything. It's amazing. They can make something look like something completely different. It means something completely different. And, Christians wouldn't have a clue. Because they're ignorant of it. They're not taught that. So, the point being is, we bring out a national currency that doesn't have any of those symbols on it. And some people had the gall, and I believe Illuminati's had the gall, to call it fake. They called a national currency fake. At the same time, they have Illuminati money in their pocket. Devil-worshipping money in their pocket. Black market script. It's not even recognized by the so-called Constitution that they profess is from God. And their Bill of Rights. That doesn't even recognize that money. See how far down the rabbit hole this country's gone? It's unbelievable, man. They sit there and call that fake. They call Continental dollars, the original money of this country, Continental dollars, fake.
The people's money.
Yeah. The people that the money belong to this country. It's national currency. And they call it fake. That means this, and this one thing only. The Illuminati's got you. They own you because they own your mind.
Exactly. I was just going to say, they're so thoroughly brainwashed, which is mind control, that they're not even capable of understanding what's the dynamics that are actually occurring. It's the people. The reality is, it's the people that are holding most of the truth movement back. They can't get out of their own way.
That's right.
They still have, the Illuminati has the people's trust. Deep down, you trust them. That's sick, isn't it? Because you feel confident of using that money and not a national currency. That means they own you.
And owns the right word, since we're talking about money.
That's right.
Well, don't people get all worked up and try to defend that when, it gets questioned? It's out of their usual and customary thinking. They kind of lose it and start attacking it. So it's the very same entity that is trying to help them.
Oh, hey, man. Yeah, you're right. They did attack us and everything else. We were actually trying to give them freedom from that clutch.
Yep.
And man, they just came around and we even needed exchangers. We're still looking for exchangers to do this. We have a couple, but we're still looking for more. And they turn around and say it's fake. Oh, is it backed by gold and silver? You think that anybody's going to start giving devil worshippers gold and silver? Seriously? That's how the rest of the world looks at you. They know all about Illuminati. They're not stupid. People all over the world know about it.
Yeah, I think one of the illusions that the American Society members suffer from is they continue to forget that a lot of this was in place in Europe and came over here. So just because they haven't heard of it doesn't mean that it's not, real in existence. Chain of title, very important with monarchs and European royalty, et cetera, et cetera. Just because folks here haven't heard of those types of concepts doesn't mean that they're not in existence and not valid. Again, it's they can't get out of their own way.
Exactly. So we have people on there. You got the same money, legal tender, the whole thing. Actually, it's national currency. And the Illuminati has got a hold on people. So don't sit there and tell us and profess your faith in Jesus, because that ain't going to happen. We know where your faith is right now. And we know where your trust is right now. You don't see any Christian symbols on that money, do you? All I see is an owl, Illuminati in the back, and all this other stuff. And you're going to sit there and tell me that national currency is fake? You're out of your freaking mind. That's how far off you are in the head. And guess what's going to happen? You want your rainbow money? Oh, it's backed by gold. No, it ain't going to be backed by gold. It ain't going to do that. What does backed by gold mean? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But guaranteed you're going to have Illuminati symbols on it. It's the same people do the same thing over and over again. Illuminati's killed a lot of people, folks. A lot of people. And they've sacrificed a lot of people to hide their truth. I think Stu and I were even looking at a couple of videos today, watching it on YouTube, and where I think it was a couple of Katy Perry videos, and there's some Lady Gaga videos. They've been trying to get out of that mess, and it just they can't get out. The only way out is death. They don't let you go, man. Once you're in, once you write that contract, sign on the dotted line, you'll get fame and fortune your whole life, but you will be sacrificed.
They probably tell them we're going to.
Yeah, the only people that are going to free, the only people that are going to free them is the people, is the populace. You know, we have to have there has to be an awakening, and understanding that the United States and the United States of America and most agencies and things like that are private entities. That's scratching the surface, really. There has to be a deeper understanding of some of these things, or it's just not gonna happen.
Right. If you start hearing rumors about this government that it's not valid and all this other stuff, talk to all the people that have actually done the research and figured out we are. Military folks, organizations, states have figured it out. A lot of them. There's a lot of us. Okay. There's over what? How many on the General Postmaster Council now on LinkedIn?
Boy, last I checked, there was just under 7,000 contacts. Probably like 6,700.
Yeah, 6,700 to 6,800 or whatever contacts.
Yeah.
To our General Postmaster Council of people that do know it is valid.
Yeah.
15,000 in total, and that's not an exaggeration. That's probably low. That's probably a low count on all of our offices. People on LinkedIn don't make fun of us. People on LinkedIn don't call us fake. They all know who we are. Very educated people. I got people.
No, and I think that that's a good example. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think that's a good example to reiterate what was brought up a show perhaps 2 ago, that the folks need to be aware, particularly the liberty movement, the freedom groups. They're being fed faulty information. I'm convinced that it's an intentional initiative by the powers that be, that they're feeding faulty information to the liberty groups. And they need, if you're involved in your own research, if you're involved in attempting to learn how to defend yourself within their court systems, etc., you need to be aware of that. You're being, for the most part, you're being led by the nose.
Yeah, being played like a fiddle.
Yeah.
And it takes them a while. It takes them a while to figure out who we are, and the respect comes in, and then everything's gone. But it does take them a while to figure out the differences. There's so many groups out there calling themselves this and that, it's just causing a big mess. It is a problem, and we're doing our best to get rid of that problem. To get everybody on one page, and that way you have the lines drawn. Don't go over this line. And by the way, the Illuminati doesn't just get rid of movie stars. There's a lot of things that they do, guys, that I just don't want to get into. They get sick. And we're talking about, the sacrifice of babies, drinking baby blood, all kinds of stuff. And they think that we're crazy about it, but it's absolutely true. There's been multiple witnesses that are not connected to each other that come out and say the same exact things.
Right. And, you don't even, although those things are real and do occur, you don't even have to go that far. You can just say because their world, because of their apparatus is built on illusion and misinformation and outright lies, they have to play for keeps to keep the secrets. which is why you have, the assassinations and whatnot.
I'm sorry, Tony. I think you were coming in. Tony was going to say something. I just didn't hear it.
No, that's okay. We can keep going.
Has the moment passed? Okay.
Right.
Okay, so just keep in mind, folks, that the continental dollar is real. We are going to be working more with other countries at the moment. And if people within the states of the Union want to use it, they're more than welcome to do it. And what's nice about it is it's not a local currency that's stuck in those metes and bounds. You can move it from one state to another without having to worry about any issues because it's a national currency. And that's why you have to have a national government. The way that it's set up now. If you didn't want a national government, you just don't want any federal or national government, then just split your country in two, make it an east and a west. Forget all the states, and you're good to go. Split it right down the middle, down the Mississippi. West of the Mississippi is West America, and east is East America. Now you don't have to worry about national government. Or anything of that nature. You can just have your government there and one government for the whole side. You just have to set it up. You just got to deal with what hand we're dealt with right now. So that's what we have to deal with. So at any rate, another reason why, I'll just bring up one more thing and we'll go ahead and call it a night because I'm pretty sure anybody's listening to this is probably doing that. Going, holy crap. Okay. I wrote an email one time to the UPU, and I told them, I said, I get it. I get it, guys. You're not going to listen, number one. You're not going to do this. And it's more than likely because we don't have nuclear weapons. If we had nuclear weapons, people would listen to us. In other words, we can't have basically they're saying, they're bringing in, another government saying, if you guys aren't tyrannical and willing to kill people, then we won't, we're not going to deal with you, that kind of thing. I've noticed that quite a bit. Now,
that falls right into the outlooks that we've just discussed, doesn't it?
Exactly.
You got they're looking. Their sole purpose is looking for conformity so that they're on top and everybody else is below them.
Mm-hmm. And the sad part about it is in an Illuminati type government, the murderers are worshipped, are listened to. What they say means something. People that are willing to kill others for you, that's who you listen to. That's what the rest of the world sees. That's exactly what's happening. There's no fighting it. There's no arguing about it. There's no, well, you're full of crap. It's not. How many people say to soldiers, thank you for your service? Service for what? You went over and killed a bunch of people. Thank you. Appreciate that. Now, I'm not saying this, I'm not disrespecting them or doing anything of that nature. I'm just saying that's what it is. Face what it is.
You've got politicians. I think the recent U.S. presidential elections sort of shows a little of that. There was a lot of heartbreak when Hillary Clinton lost. But, she's a gangster.
Well, think about it. They killed 5 people to get her where she was, and then she lost. Okay, so now those 5 deaths, which were nothing more than sacrifices on their altar of devil worshipping, didn't come through. It messes with their faith in their own deity. They don't understand why. They sacrificed 5 people. It was a bloodletting to get her on the throne there, and didn't happen. Now they got to produce. The God that they've been worshiping, that they thought existed, didn't exist or lost. That's not supposed to happen. And by the way, why would you worship the devil anyways? He lost. He was the one kicked out. If you're going to go with the story, you're going to worship the dude who got second?
Yeah, that's.
I mean, seriously?
Yeah, I never understood that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, the dude's a loser. Why don't you go with the guy that won? It makes more sense. Had a rebellion in heaven, got kicked out. Well, I'm with the guy that won. I'm with you. He lost. See you, loser. Didn't make any sense. But anyways, the human behavior never normally doesn't. Okay, I think we've made our point this evening, and we'd like to appreciate everybody that listens to the T-ROH Show. Please tell your friends about us. We do hit some heavy subjects and deep subjects, so they're not only informative, they are ways to free your mind from the grips of the trust circle that you're in. Anybody else have anything before we go ahead and close it out?
No, that was a good way to finish it.
Alrighty. All right, thanks, Tony and Stu. Appreciate you coming here.
You're welcome.
And we will talk to you guys next week. We have no idea what we'll be talking about, but the subject matter will present itself. So thank you for listening to the T-ROH Show, and tune in next week at the same time.